Hello, readers and writers. Welcome to ELA School, Away from School. I'll be your virtual teacher, Mrs. Ewing. Before we get started, let's go ahead and look at our guided questions that'll be leading us through the next 10 weeks. Our first guiding question says, what can we learn from the process of ratifying the 19th Amendment? How can stories inspire us to take action to contribute to a better world? And how and why can we encourage and support others to contribute to a better world? All right, so today for daily lesson 1, the materials you're going to need is our text, and we'll use this text all week long. It's entitled The History of the 19th Amendment. You'll also need your lesson 1 lesson planner, and you'll need your lesson 1 note catcher. All 3 of these materials you can find in your ELA packet. You're also going to need a sharpened pencil. Go ahead and collect these materials and pause this video. All right, great, welcome back. Now that we've collected our materials, let's go ahead and get started. Our learning target says, I can determine the main idea of a text and find supporting details. So we're really going to hone in today on what's the main idea of this text and how is it supported with those supporting details. All right, so we're going to read the text. I'm going to read it aloud today, but no, moving forward, you can read this text with your family member, your caregiver, or a friend. After I read, as you work through, you can also go back and reread this text with your family member, a caregiver, or a friend. The title of our text today is The History of the 19th Amendment. Go ahead and find this text and read along with me. Great. The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was passed on August 18, 1920. This law gave American women the right to vote. At the time the U.S. was founded, women did not share all the same rights as men. The movement for women's rights began on a national level with a meeting in Seneca Falls, New York. Following the convention, the demand for the vote became a central part of the women's rights movement. The movement was known as the suffrage movement. Suffrage refers to the right to vote. Activists formed groups that raised awareness and pressured the government to give voting rights to women. After a long battle, these groups finally won their victory with the passage of the 19th Amendment. Origins of women's suffrage in the U.S. During America's early history, women were denied some of the key rights enjoyed by men. For example, women did not have the right to vote. They were expected to give their attention to housework and motherhood, not politics. All right, next page. During the 1820s and 1830s, this changed. Many women started to push back against the idea that the only true woman was a wife and mother devoted to her family. Suffrage movement gets organized. In 1848, the movement for women's rights began. In July, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott organized the first women's rights gathering at Seneca Falls, New York. More than 300 people attended. They believed that women should be given better opportunities. They also agreed that women should have political rights like the right to vote. National suffrage groups established. In 1869, Stanton joined together with another activist named Susan B. Anthony. They formed the National Women's Suffrage Association, NWSA. The NWSA wanted to pass an amendment to the Constitution that would give women the right to vote. That same year, Lucy Stone and Henry Blackwell founded the American Woman Suffrage Association, AWSA. The AWSA thought it would be easier to give women the right to vote a different way. The group wanted to pass amendments to individual state constitutions. In 1890, the NWSA and the AWSA merged together. They formed a new group called the National American Women Suffrage Association, NAWSA. This group planned to push for voting rights, state by state. Within 6 years, Colorado, Utah, and Idaho gave women the right to vote. In 1900, Carrie Chapman Catt became the leader of the NAWSA. Progress in civil disobedience. In the early 1900s, the NAWSA had many successes. Between 1910 and 1918, 17 states and territories gave voting rights to women. In 1918, President Woodrow Wilson became a supporter of women's voting rights. He argued for an amendment to the Constitution. But when a plan for such an amendment came up for a vote, it failed to pass. Another year passed before national lawmakers considered the amendment again. Getting the vote. When Congress voted again on the amendment in 1919, it passed. Then the amendment was sent to the states to be approved. To become a law, 2/3 of the states had to vote in favor of the amendment. By March of the following year, a total of 35 states had approved the amendment. To reach a 2/3 majority, one more state needed to approve it. 7 southern states had already rejected the amendment. In the end, it was up to Tennessee to make the final decision. Tennessee lawmakers were evenly divided. Representative Harry T. Byrne had to cast the final vote to break the tie. Although Byrne was against the amendment, his mother convinced him to support it. With Byrne's vote, the 19th Amendment became law. On November 2nd, 1920, more than 8 million women across the United States voted in elections for the first time. It took over 60 years for the remaining 12 states to approve the 19th Amendment. Mississippi was the last to do so in 1984. Great. Now that we've read this text, let's think about these 2 questions. What is this article about? And what did you learn about the 19th Amendment from this article? Pause this video and think through these 2 questions. Great, readers. All right, now that we've thought about these 2 big questions, let's have a discussion. So with a caregiver, a family member, or friend, you're going to discuss the following questions. Before you discuss, I want to remind you of a couple things. Remember that the main idea is the big idea that the author wants you to understand and take away from reading a text. A supporting detail is information from the text that supports, explains, defines, or proves the main idea. All right, let's think about these first 2 questions and talk about them. What do you think the main idea of the article is? And what makes you think that? Pause this video and talk about these 2 questions. Okay, great. Now that we've thought about the main idea, what explicit information in the text supports your thinking about the main idea? So go in the text and find those supporting details. Pause this video and talk about this. All right, great, readers. So now we've read the text, we've thought through the text, we've also talked about the text. So now we're ready to do our writing activity, our writing task. Using the Lesson 1 note catcher, record your main idea. And you're going to notice at the top of the note catcher is a place to capture your main idea. Then you're going to find 3 supporting details from the text, and you're going to record them on the bottom of the note catcher. Go ahead and pause this video and complete this writing task. Great. Welcome back, writers. All right, before we go, I want to remind you to share your writing with someone and tell them why did you choose to write what you did. After you complete your assignment, Remember to read a book with a family member, a caregiver, or a friend for 20 minutes. We're also going to every day do some fluency practice. So use a timer. This could be a cell phone timer, a kitchen timer, or you can have someone count to 60. And read the passage for 1 minute. Count the words you read and write the number at the top of your text. Each day we'll be doing this, and we'll notice the more we practice, the more fluently we read, and the more fluent we become, and we should see that number go up. All right, great. I enjoyed this time with you today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.